Hi everyone. So from today onwards, I'm going to start with the elements of civil engineering with a video presentation because what we have discussed with the previous sessions, it is all about the audio class. So in the audio classes, there will be of a bit, the disturbances with respect to the clarity of the notes, or it may be with the, audibility. So from today's class, I'm going to start with what you are having the continuation part. It is nothing but the second module of second chapter, the friction. So in the last session, we have discussed about what is the definition of friction, or what are all the types of friction, or how we can find out the friction. As well, we have started with a few numericals. So again, I'm going to continue with the numerical part. So we know that the friction is nothing but when there will be of two particles which is going to act always in the opposite direction, that causes the friction. Means when the surface is which is going to act in both in opposite directions. For example, if the surface is moving in right side direction, the upper layer, and the bottom layer, if it is going to be acting in the opposite direction, that causes the resistance between the two layers. We'll call that will be as a friction. Here the continuation of the numerical. So we can see there is a problem. On the problem is that a body weighing 200 Newton is placed on a rough horizontal plane. If the coefficient of friction is between the body and the horizontal plane is 0.4, determine the magnitude of a horizontal force required to just move the body. ಅಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲವೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಕೊಡಲ್ಲ, but directly the question will be given. We should understand the question and we should write the sketch. So a body weighing 200 Newton, ಅಂದ್ರೆ a block body ಏನಿದೆ that weighs 200 Newton, it is nothing but the self weight, is placed on a rough horizontal plane. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಏನಿದೆ, we can consider this will be as an horizontal surface. On that surface, the horizontal block, the block which has been kept, that block which is having 200 Newton is the weight, self weight. If the coefficient of the friction between the body and the horizontal plane, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಾರಿಜಾಂಟಲ್ ಫ್ಲೋರ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಆ ಎರಡು ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಫ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ 0.4. Determine the magnitude. Magnitude is nothing but the force. Magnitude of horizontal force required to just move the body. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಹ್ಯಾಚೆಡ್ ಪೋರ್ಷನ್ ಏನ್ ಇಂಡಿಕೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ರಫ್ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್. ಸೊ ಆನ್ ದಟ್ there is a block which has been kept. ಒಂದು ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ನ ಇಟ್ಟಿದೆ ನೋಡಬಹುದು, that weighs the self Newton is 200 Newton, and we can see here the P horizontal force that we have to find out actually. Here the W, the self weight, it is always acting vertically downward, and here it is the floor which resists the self weight of the block, and the coefficient of friction is given. First equation ಅನ್ನು ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ಓಕೆ, ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಬರೆದು we should write the free body diagram with respect to equilibrium conditions. So here we can see the free body diagram. That is, N represents the normal reaction from the floor to the body, and F represents the friction, and P represents the force which is required to move the block, and W represents the self weight. You know that self weight is always acting vertically downward due to the gravity. ಯಾವುದೇ ಇಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಮಾರ್ಕರ್ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಮಾರ್ಕರ್ ನಾನು ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಇದು ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ. If I'm just leaving it here, it will go down because it is having the self weight. And why it is going downward? Because it is due to the gravitational force. So the same way here, while writing in the free body diagram, P represents the horizontal force. He has mentioned that the horizontal force, I'll say in the right side direction. Then to resist, there is a friction which is going to act opposite direction, that is horizontally left side. Then vertically downward will be the self weight, and ಇದು ಈಕ್ವಿಲಿಬ್ರಿಯಂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ there is a normal reaction from the floor is N. ಅದರ ಗಿವನ್ ಡೇಟಾಗಳನ್ನ ಬರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಒಂದು, we know W, and we know what is the coefficient of friction. And remember it, in the last session we have discussed about the coefficient of friction. Coefficient of friction is nothing but it is the ratio of frictional force by the normal reaction from the surface. That is mu is equal to F by N. So ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಈಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ, mu is equal to F by N. We know what is mu and we know what is F, then we can find out N. Okay, but here F is unknown and N is unknown, we know only mu. Remember it, mu is the coefficient of friction, that is 0.4. So now we can substitute F will be as mu into N. Then we know mu, so we can just replace F will be as N. Then that is F is equal to 0.4 times of N. ಅಂದ್ರೆ F ನ ನಾವು N place ಗೂ ಕೂಡ replace ಮಾಡಬಹುದು in terms of N, or also we can replace N in terms of F also, that is F by 0.4. But we should apply the equilibrium conditions. See, what are all the equilibrium conditions? There are 3 equilibrium conditions. The first one with respect to horizontal force. All the horizontal forces, sigma fx is equal to 0. Right side as positive, and that will be equal to 0. Then second one is vertical forces. All the vertical forces will be acting vertically upward, and that will be considered as vertically upward as positive, that will be equal to 0. Then with respect to the moment. So now we are not going to consider the moment, it is only the horizontal and the vertical forces. So there are 2 horizontal forces and 2 vertical forces. So now the first one, sigma fx is equal to 0, horizontally right side as positive. So ಯಾವ forces there? One though P. How it is acting? Horizontally right side. So plus P. Then there is one more force, F. How it is acting? Horizontally left side. So minus F. So minus F can be written as minus 0.4 N. So P minus 0.4 N will be equal to 0. Call this will be as equation 1 because P is unknown, N is unknown. ಎರಡು unknown ಇದ್ದಾಗ ಒಂದು equation ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. So we can go to the next one. That is second condition. Sigma Fy is equal to 0, vertically upward as positive. So again agata, let's note the number of vertical forces. There are 2 forces. One is 200 Newton, other one is N. So minus 200. Why it is minus? Because vertically downward. Plus N will be equal to 0. So call this as equation 2. So we can see from equation 1 and 2. So we have N and N. So we can find out from 2 equations and 2 unknowns, that is P is equal to 80 Newton and F is equal to 80 Newton. Andre illi 200 Newton act agtidre, we can find out what is the value of P and F. But they ask you to find out what is the horizontal force which can be resisted. Equilibrium ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ P ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬಂದು 80 Newton ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಮತ್ತೆ F ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಬಂದು 80 Newton ಇದೆ. Next numerical, so we can see here a force of 350 Newton is just sufficient to move a body weighing 500 Newton upon inclined plane as shown in figure. So we can see that in the previous problem we have discussed for a horizontal plane with the block which has been kept of 200 Newton and we have resolved it. Andre previous problem alli they ask you to find out what is the value of F as well as what is the value of N. Andre F value ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, N value ಎಷ್ಟು ಬರುತ್ತೆ find out ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, but it is for a horizontal plane. Now we can see here that it is a different problem for inclined plane. A force of 350 Newton is just sufficient to move a body weighing 500 Newton upon inclined plane as shown in figure. Sketch ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. The force is applied parallel to the inclined plane. Determine the coefficient of friction at the surface of the contact. And there is one more additional part in this problem. Previous problem ಏನಾಗಿತ್ತು, they ask you to find out what is the magnitude of horizontal force. ಅಂದ್ರೆ F ಅಥವಾ N value horizontal forces ನ ಮಾತ್ರ find out ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, P and F. But in this problem they ask you to find out if it is inclined plane, what will be the magnitude, as well as they ask you to find out what is the coefficient of friction. We know that coefficient of friction, it is the ratio of F by N. It is nothing but the frictional force divided by the normal reaction force which is acting from the plane surface. So here the sketch is given. We can see here there is an inclined plane with respect to horizontal. The inclined is 30 degree and block which has been kept, that is the self weight of the block is 500 Newton. Adre ee block na illi ittad takshana enagutte, which will move down because due to the gravitational force of the self weight it will move down. But there is one more force which is resisting it. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು P ಅನ್ನೋ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ 350 ನ್ಯೂಟನ್ ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆ, ಆ 500 ನ್ಯೂಟನ್ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ನ ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮೂವ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. Now which is inclined for 30 degree. ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, if it is inclined we should resolve in terms of horizontal and vertical components. Horizontal ಮತ್ತೆ vertical components ಆಗಿ resolve ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. So we should draw a free body diagram. So we take this will be as a block, and the block, so now here it is with respect to horizontal is 30 degree, and if you are saying with respect to vertical when it has been tilted it will become 60 degree. So again agata, this will become horizontal, and here what I will get, this will become vertical and this will become 60 degree. Adu bandu 60 illa agutte. So W is 500 Newton. So with respect to horizontal will become 60 and with respect to vertical will become 30, and P is 350 Newton, that is given, and N is the normal reaction from the surface, and F is the frictional resistance force. So we should find out what is P and N also, because W is known, P is known, but we don't know what is N and F. First we have to find out what is the magnitude, after that we can find out what is the coefficient of friction, because coefficient of friction is the ratio of F by N, but we don't know F and we don't know what is N. So to find out that, we have the enters P and W. So how we can find out that? So we can use the equilibrium conditions. The first condition, sigma fx is equal to 0, horizontal right side as positive, and that will be equal to 0. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಫೋರ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ horizontal force? ಒಂದು horizontal right side, that is plus 350 Newton. The next one more is F, that is minus F because horizontal left side, and we can see here there is one more inclined force that should be resolved in terms of horizontal and vertical components. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಬಹುದು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಚಿಕ್ಕದಾಗಿ ಸ್ಕೆಚ್ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ. inclined ಇದ್ರೆ, so we should see the point of intersection. That is, if it is point of intersection like this, then this will become horizontal left side and vertically downward. Point of direction ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದರ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಸಾಲ್ವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಈ ರೀತಿ inclined ಇದ್ರೆ this will become with respect to the point of direction horizontally left side and vertically downward. Horizontally left side ಬಂದು W cos 60 and vertically opposite will become W sin 60. So now we'll do the substitution. Here 350 minus W minus F and minus W cos 60 is equal to 0. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ W ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. W is given, that is 500 Newton. So you can just substitute, that will be as 500 Newton. Then 350 minus of F minus W is 500 cos 60. ಆಗ F ಉಳ್ಕೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಅದು ಆ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. So 350 minus of W cos 60. So that is 500 cos 60. You'll get plus 100 Newton. So F value ಸಿಕ್ತು. The next is sigma Fy is equal to 0. Vertically upward as positive. That will be equal to 0. So now we have to list out how many vertical forces are there. So there are 3 vertical forces. One is N and other one is self weight. That will be in terms of resolved. So there are 2 vertical forces, N and W sin 60. So how it will be? Vertically downward. That is minus W sin 60 plus N is equal to 0. ಆಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ? W is minus 500 sin 60 plus N is equal to 0. Then N will become 433.01 Newton. So F ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು, N ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. So we have find out what is the magnitude of F and N. Then the question is determine the coefficient of friction at the surface of contact. So to find out that, we remember the equation mu is equal to F by N, coefficient of friction. So F is known as 100 and N is known as 433.01 Newton. So just substitute that 100 by 433.01. Then you'll get coefficient of friction will be as 0.231. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, the coefficient of friction between the contacts of surfaces, if it is inclined plane also we can resolve that, but we should resolve in terms of free body diagram, then it will be easy to find out that. So previous ಅಲ್ಲಿ horizontal plane surface ಇತ್ತು, ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಕ್ಯಾಲ್ಕುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ದು. ಬಟ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಅಡಿಷನಲ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಏನಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, including the magnitude, they ask you to find out the coefficient of friction for the inclined plane surface.